Lamar Jackson to the New England Patriots? Could it actually happen? Does it make sense? Should the Patriots move on from Mac Jones? In this video, I'm going to break down all of the above. Because apparently, Lamar wants to play for the New England Patriots. So let's begin with the news that shook the NFL earlier today. Lamar Jackson requested a trade from the Baltimore Ravens. And it sounds like they're not in a good spot. They're not in a good place. He wants to play somewhere else in 2023 because his financial needs are not being met. So let's begin with the Twitter news. The tweet from Lamar Jackson indicating that he requested a trade. It begins with a letter to his fans. He says, "I want to first thank all of you for all of the love and support you consistently show towards me. All of you are amazing and I appreciate y'all so much. I want you all to know not to believe everything you read about me. Let me personally answer your questions." He goes on to say, "In regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. Any and everyone that hasn't met me or been around me know I love the game of football and my dream is to help a team." Lamar, you got to work on your grammar, bro. But continuing on that, he says, "Win the Super Bowl. You all are great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore Flock Nation and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again." So Lamar Jackson is done with the Ravens. Or at least he's really pushing them towards making something happen because he is not happy with the state of their contract negotiations. So where does that leave the New England Patriots? That pretty much means that, hey, you can talk to Lamar. And you have been able to talk to Lamar. But there's been some collusion behind the scenes of the NFL. And in some part, Lamar Jackson has not been represented properly. Right? Lamar kind of has his own representation. He doesn't have a big-time agent like a Patrick Mahomes does. So it's more difficult for teams to actually get these negotiations handled and finished. And Lamar, in some ways, has been messing himself, but also the teams have not been willing to go out there to make a play for Lamar, in some thought because they believe that the Ravens would just match whatever they offer. So now that Lamar has officially made it known that he is done with the Ravens, he wants no part of the Ravens unless something drastically changes, this now means that teams will be pursuing him and at least getting a very good feeling for what the price is. And when you have a former MVP that's only 26 years old, a lot of teams should be interested in one of the best quarterbacks in football. And that's exactly what Lamar Jackson is. So, why the Patriots? Why am I going on about this with the Patriots? There was a rumor, and I would call it news. I wouldn't even call it a rumor because it came from the horse's mouth. It came from the man himself, Robert Kraft. Okay? And that news is that Robert Kraft said that his buddy, the rapper Meek Mill, texted him that Lamar Jackson wants to come to the Patriots. And Kraft said that that would be Bill Belichick's decision. This has been reported by numerous beat reporters that were there interviewing Robert Kraft. And I'm not sure exactly how that came out. Like, maybe a reporter asked him about Lamar Jackson, or maybe he just said it. I don't really know. But Robert Kraft doesn't just say this stuff. So Meek Mill texted Robert Kraft that Lamar wants to be a Patriot. And I'm assuming that Lamar told Meek Mill that he really wants to go to New England or be a Patriot. I know that Meek Mill's done some performances for the Patriots in the past and those Super Bowl parades and all that sort of stuff. So that's where the connection comes from. But yeah, like, this is big news that if the Patriots were interested, that might be Lamar Jackson's preferred location, like preferred spot to go. And that's always a great thing if you're a Patriots fan, because you know that we have the leverage in a trade negotiation with the Ravens if we want Lamar Jackson. Not even claiming that we do, but if we were to go that route, it sounds like Lamar would push to make that happen. At least according to Meek Mill, who seems to be close with Lamar Jackson. Not that I have any previous knowledge of that, but that's cool nonetheless. Now, why does this make me really intrigued? Because Robert Kraft is super intense as an owner and super competitive, which is why I love him as a fan. He does not want to lose, like, at any time, at any moment when he's owning this team. This guy's all about winning. He came out last year, if you may recall, and was complaining about how the team hadn't won a playoff game in 3 years. And there's teams sitting there for 30 years who haven't won a playoff game, like the Detroit Lions. But that's Robert Kraft, right? And Robert Kraft is super competitive. And this was also reported today from Zach Cox, who says, Robert Kraft to the reporters in Arizona, "I was very disappointed the way our season went. My objective for our team is that we make the playoffs. I thought changes had to be made, and I think we made some changes that personally give me hope for the upcoming season." So Robert Kraft this offseason said this, that he's disappointed in the team, that he wants to make the playoffs, he expects to make the playoffs, and pretty much the underlying factor here is he'll do anything it takes to make the playoffs. And he's trying to make necessary changes to do so. So that continues to push into the Patriots making moves to be competitive, to being a good team. So you look at the AFC East, right? There's rumors about Rodgers to the Jets, although that kind of seems more murky because there's also rumors about Lamar to the Jets. So I'm not exactly 100% sold that that actually is going to happen, but still waiting on that to happen. The Buffalo Bills, of course, are the favorites of the division with Josh Allen, and they will be with Josh Allen. The Dolphins made the playoffs last year and only got better adding Jalen Ramsey, and if Tua stays healthy, they're a good football team. So this is a really competitive AFC East. Then you have the entire AFC, right? Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes. You've got some really good football teams across the conference, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. So you've got a lot to deal with and a lot of competition. Bill Belichick also made an interesting comment today at these owners' meetings. He had a full, long interview where he didn't give much away, but he was asked about Lamar Jackson due to the news. And Lamar has always been a fan of Belichick, and Belichick's always been a fan of Lamar. And Belichick said something really interesting that I find to be maybe not like super like pointing towards this is gonna happen, but definitely opens your eyes a little bit. This is what he said.
We do something we think can help the team, then we'll do it, given the context of whatever it is. But yeah, we're not afraid to do whatever we need to do that will help the team, whatever that is.
On top of Bill Belichick saying that, he's also praised Lamar Jackson about how good he is, how difficult he is to stop, and that he is, in fact, an elite quarterback. This is what he had to say last year before facing the Ravens.
He came in with questions about whether he could handle being in the pocket, and it seems as if he's answered some of those questions.
Without a doubt.
It's the type of player that's a MVP type of candidate. I think he's more than answered him. But we'll see what his contract is. That'll answer him.
Not only is Bill Belichick praising Lamar Jackson, his players also have a ton of respect for Lamar Jackson, including one of his leaders on defense, Adrian Phillips, who, as this news was circulating, he didn't say bring him to the Patriots, but he said Lamar Jackson is a top 3 hardest people to stop and play against in the NFL. MVP for a reason. Pay the man. Adrian Phillips played against the Ravens in the playoffs as a member of the Chargers and then played against him multiple times in New England. So he understands how difficult he is to stop, and he's played him numerous times. And I think that speaks volumes about how the Patriots players may respond to this if New England was to go in that direction. I think they all like Mac Jones and they want him to succeed in New England, but if they were to move on to Lamar Jackson, I think a lot of the players understand how gifted he is, and especially for a defensive player as smart as Adrian Phillips and the IQ he has for football, to say something like Lamar is a top 3 quarterback basically in the NFL, I think is a really big comment. And look, I wouldn't really disagree with him. I mean, I think Lamar Jackson's a top 5 quarterback in this league. I really do. You look at his resume, and it's more impressive than people give it credit for. Not only is he arguably the best rushing quarterback in NFL history, which a lot of people want to gloss over because they'd prefer a pocket passer, which is fine. I would too, but I love Lamar Jackson. I always have. I did in college, and I wanted New England to draft him back in 2018 with their pick in that draft. I wanted him to sit behind Brady, and I wanted him to become the starter in 2019 or 2020 when Tom Brady eventually retired or moved on. And he ended up moving on, and we had no plan after Tom Brady. So now we've ended up a couple years later, we went through the Cam Newton thing. Then we ended up with Mac Jones, who I also wanted New England to draft. But before I wanted Mac Jones, I wanted Lamar Jackson to be a Patriot. And the way that Lamar Jackson would fit into our offense is extremely intriguing to me. Now, I think one of the biggest bonuses, because a lot of people are like, well, Mac Jones needs a number 1 receiver. Mac Jones needs a number 1 receiver. I've been saying that. You've been saying that. Understood. If you have Lamar Jackson, you don't necessarily need a number 1 receiver, because Lamar Jackson is so good and so gifted as a runner that it makes everything easier in the passing game. He's so athletically gifted that it opens up easier matchups for maybe lesser talents at wide receiver. This isn't the case of a Joe Burrow or even a Patrick Mahomes, where you do need to have weapons around them. When you have Lamar Jackson, maybe he's not as gifted as a passer, he's not as accurate, he doesn't have as big of an arm as a guy like Mahomes, but he's a good passer. Don't get me wrong. This guy, especially over the middle of the field, extremely rapid release. Just go watch his tape. A lot of Patriots fans may see this differently than I do, but I've always believed in Lamar Jackson's passing ability, and it's only gotten greater coming out of college, winning the MVP, and it's actually become better since then. We've seen games where Lamar's come back in fourth quarters, not only running, but throwing the football, and he's been doing this with less than stellar casts around him at wide receiver and on the offensive line at times. So Lamar's been really in an offense in Baltimore that has very limited things around him. The scheme was extremely vanilla in the passing game, nothing really helping him to operate in the drop back passing game. He rarely ever worked under center. There was a lot of, just too much pressure on Lamar to be the everything in the offense. And I feel like coming to New England with a guy like Bill O'Brien, who would give him more intricate, I think that's how you say the word, passing concepts and more detail in the passing game. And you see what a Bryce Young did with Bill O'Brien. Well, you take Bryce Young and you multiply that by 30 times, and that's Lamar Jackson with what he can do, elusive wise, and the release and the different arm angles that he can throw from. And you can see a very replicatable game plan from Lamar Jackson and Bryce Young from Alabama to New England, here in the NFL. And back to my point about a number 1 receiver, you don't need that guy. If you have 2 good tight ends, which we have, if you have 3 to 4 functional good receivers, maybe not great, but you have Juju, you have rather Devontae Parker or Kendrick Bourne. They may have to move off of one of them if Lamar comes here. And then you also have, of course, Tyquan Thornton. And, I mean, there's a lot to work with already if you have a dynamic top upper echelon running game led by Lamar Jackson and Ramondre Stevenson and James Robinson and a good offensive line, right? So I could see that really using assets in a different fashion or form. So if you were to give up your first round pick, or if you were to give up multiple picks or whatever it may be, now I'm not exactly sure what it would be. Would it be 2 firsts this year, next year? Sure, I'd be willing to do that. Now, is it a lot of money? Yes, but think about it this way. New England can afford Lamar. It may not be in the traditional sense of this year, but you could backload the contract because New England has the second most cash in football over the next couple of years. They have a ton of cap space. I mean, a ton of cap space in 2024 and 2025. And Mac Jones, if they were going to move off of him, would give us another pick to work with, probably a second round pick from some team. And then also, we have a lot of cap to just use on Lamar in future years. And we already have a roster right now, I believe. We have a really good defense. We have a lot of young players on that side of the ball. We have a pretty decent offense and I would say would improve substantially through the presence of Lamar Jackson because he would change our offense inherently with his playmaking ability, with his rushing ability, and then also I feel he would make other players around him better, which is what the best quarterbacks in football do. And we're not there yet with Mac. We don't exactly know. And that's the difficulty with this right now. Is Mac Jones worth letting go of, giving up on, right, to get a Lamar Jackson? And I'm not sure about that. Like, could Mac Jones really take a huge step forward this year and be the dude this year? And I would say he could. But like I've been saying all offseason, I still think he needs a dude at wide receiver because he's the type of quarterback, different from Lamar, who's less of a athlete, right? He's more of a distributor. And just like Joe Burrow, I keep making this comparison because they have built around him ideally with superstar receiver talent, right? Even Peyton Manning had superstar receiver talent. When you're a distributor and you use your brain and your accuracy, the best way to get the most out of him is not how New England built around Tom Brady for many years. It's not by building a great defense. It's by having great receivers and great talent around them so that they can pick and choose their matchups pre-snap, post-snap, and be able to get the ball accurately to their receivers. And Mac can be a very good quarterback in this league, I believe. And if he can be that this year with the contract he's on, you're still going to have to pay him eventually, right? So your decision has to be made there. Now, Lamar's also dealt with injuries the last couple of years. That's another factor, right? 12 games in 2021, 12 games in 2022. He has not made it to December the last couple of years due to injuries because of the style that he plays. But I would also say that Lamar is not really huge injury risk because none of his injuries have been super substantial or serious. And when you look at his track record, the guy's a game changer and all he does is really win. I mean, you look at his career record, 45-16. There's no quarterback better than that other than Patrick Mahomes in this league. Every season he's played, he's had an above 500 record. 6-1 as a rookie. 13-2 as a second-year pro. 11-4 in his third year. 7-5 in his fourth year. And 8-4 in his fifth year. Now, there's been some regression, I think, because the Ravens roster has gotten worse. And their system's gotten stale around him. But you put him on a team like New England with fresh ideas, with fresh motivation, and a good roster, like a strong, healthy roster that doesn't have to make a ton more moves, at least this year, and can afford to give up picks. I mean, I see New England with Lamar Jackson as a true competitor in the AFC. With the way that Belichick can coach a defense and what Bill O'Brien will be able to do with him, that I think would be next level. Because Bill O'Brien is all about that short intermediate passing game, the middle of the field. And that's what Lamar needs. You know, Baltimore failed to give him weapons around him, failed to give him playmakers around him where he needs it most. And I think the Patriots understand that. So there's a lot to think about here. I love Mac Jones. I love Lamar Jackson. I love both players. They're both very different players. I'd be fine with either decision. I'd be fine with chasing Lamar. I'd be fine with keeping Mac. But you have to understand that if you want an elite quarterback, you got to pay for one. And you got to go for it. Right? And Mac Jones, I believe, can be a very good quarterback. Is he as special as Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Lamar Jackson is unique. Like, he defines that word. Like, there's maybe only one other quarterback that comes to mind that's anywhere close to the skill set that he offers on Sundays, which is Michael Vick. Other than that, we have never seen a guy like him with his elusiveness, with his rushing ability, and then on top of that, toughness, leadership, right? He has those traits that Vic didn't have. The arm strength, the release, the accuracy. So he is a unique player, and he gives you a chance every year, just as he does with the Ravens, even though they haven't had the best around him at times, in my opinion. And that kind of leaves us with the last final note, which is about Mac Jones, what Robert Kraft thinks right now. And this is where I kind of want to end up, which is Robert Kraft on Mac Jones says, I'm a big fan of Mac. I think that we experimented with some things last year that frankly didn't work when it came to him, in my opinion. I think we've made changes that put him in good position to excel. I agree with Mr. Robert Kraft. He also says he's in the stadium almost every day now in the offseason. I think bringing in Bill O'Brien will work towards his advantage. I'm very positive and hopefully about this upcoming year. I'm personally a big fan of Mac. So yeah, Kraft loves Mac Jones. But as we've stated already, he's going to do what he thinks is best for this franchise. And Bill is also going to do what he thinks is best right now into the future for the Patriots to be a winning team. And that could be stay with Mac Jones, which I'm fine with. That could be trade for Lamar Jackson. Either way, I'm pumped. I'm excited. You have to at least think about the possibility of Lamar Jackson, the grade 8 in New England. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. It's Mitch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.